the panics, all the fear we had about readjusting and getting a job and being normal again were kind of relatively unfounded.
And I want to touch on life after traveling. So after being away for 9 months and living this amazing dream lifestyle, how hard was it to come back to normal life?
Well, I think we had a little bit of a honeymoon period because we came back over Christmas. So we landed back on the 21st of December, and then we went and surprised our friends at a Christmas party that evening, which was quite nice. And then we sort of had we gave ourselves 10 days to kind of settle back into a normal routine and not be worrying about things. And I think in fairness, after 9 months, we were pretty ready to come home. We were done sort of being on the move all the time. We were a little bit done with trains, planes, automobiles. So, and I think, as I mentioned earlier, we started gearing ourselves up for returning. I think the biggest thing which we realised very quickly was all the panics, all the fear we had about readjusting and getting a job and being normal again were kind of relatively unfounded. We both ended up getting a job pretty quickly. Good jobs as well, not just panic and grab the first job we can. We were able to be a little bit picky. So I think the other thing as well is that just that whole process has given us so much more confidence about what we do just generally. Going through that experience and knowing, okay, even just as a couple being okay, we've been with each other literally for 9 months. I don't think there was a single point where we weren't with. I think the longest time we were apart was maybe 2 hours, if that. I think that's because George was feeling unwell one evening, and I went out to eat by myself, and that was it. We were conjoined twins for 9 months, which would have been awkward if I'd then proposed and she said no. But she's like, no, the trip's really made me reassess my situation. So no, we actually didn't find adjusting too difficult. But I can imagine that if you came back and you felt like you hadn't done the stuff you wanted to do, that it would be very difficult. And even now, I every now and then I'm like, we could just go traveling again. We could just we take the dog with us now. It's fine. We could just go traveling. And I think George is less convinced than I am. But yeah.
And I'm sure I know the answer to this question, but would you urge people to do the same?
Yeah, I would. I really would. And I think it taught us as much about ourselves as it did other people. And the biggest thing you could take away from it is basically everyone's the same. People want to go for a drink. They want to spend time with their family. They want to put a roof above their heads, and they want to eat good food. And that is true from not just the people you'll meet, but the people who live in the countries you go to as well. And there's a universal truth in I think this is why food is so important, that you can kind of sit down and have a meal with someone and you're having a shared experience. And in a world which is sort of increasingly feeling divided, it was quite nice to go away and remember that actually there's probably more. We have more in common than what separates us. So in that respect, it was very important. And also likewise, it was just a ridiculous experience. I mean, we did things that I didn't think we'd ever think we'd do. And as I said, I still bore people to this day with stories from traveling, to the point where I think even now they're getting a little bit bored. We're like, yes, Christian, you went traveling, which is going to be hilarious when I'm publicising this podcast. But hey, did you guys know that I went traveling? Someone actually asked me to speak about it, which is I often don't need much prompting to do. So I would thoroughly recommend it. But everybody's circumstances are different. You've got to do what's best for you. And I'm not saying go for 9 months, but I would be very surprised if after this pandemic is over and people are starting to figure out their life balance a little bit more, and working from Zoom is slightly more feasible. But it's not going to be an easier thing for people to do. I mean, George's boss was in Thailand when the pandemic hit, and she worked from Thailand for 5 months.
Wow.
We met a couple when we were traveling from Sweden, and they were planning. Their company had said, "Yeah, go traveling, go live in Australia, carry on working, carry on doing the hours that you do." And fortunately, they worked jobs which were able to be done remotely, and they had awful waking up times.
Yeah.
But again, they could wake up at 4 a.m, work until midday, have the afternoon, do whatever they wanted, have a nice meal, and then sort of get some sleep before the next morning. So I think it's going to be easy for people to do, and the positives massively outweigh the negatives.